What's up, future officers? My name is Tejas and I welcome you all to episode 25 of iLead. Today we are going to be discussing about a philosophy in ethics. Very important philosophy, has high significance and yield for your examination. So it all arises from this universal dilemma. What is this universal dilemma or this universal question, sir, you might ask? It all starts from understanding what is the right thing to do. We face this question almost every day, from personal choices to world-changing decisions. What if there was a moral philosophy which almost resonates like a math problem, a way in which you can clearly define what is right and what is wrong? What is this which almost equates like a math problem? Sounds interesting, right? This is the radical promise of utilitarianism, a philosophy built on a single powerful idea. Let's try to know about the founders of this utilitarianism and the principles which it holds. Two names arises here: Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, or you can just call him as J.S. Mill. They proposed a revolutionary idea. The morality of an action is determined by the consequence, and the only consequence that matters is happiness. The core principle is called as the greatest happiness principle. Actions are right if they promote happiness, and they are wrong if they promote the reverse. The goal, you might ask, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. It's not always about your intentions here. It's about that impact. If we have to speak a little bit of particulars here, we speak about the first person, that is Jeremy Bentham. What's interesting to know is that for this philosophy, he built a calculator. This is called as the felicific calculus, wherein Jeremy Bentham didn't just state the principle, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. He didn't just state it. He built a tool for it. He said that we should be calculating pleasure based on several factors. Now, what are these factors? How strong is the pleasure? How long will it last? How likely is it to happen? How soon will it occur? Will it lead to more pleasure? Will it be followed by more pains? How many people are affected by this? If we have to look and consider all these factors, it becomes very easy. But let me just try to simplify this using an example. Imagine that you go to an ice cream store. You like one particular flavor which is your favorite. But then you have to think that you are getting this ice cream to all of your family members also. And maybe perhaps they do not like the flavor which is your personal favorite. Now, how would you make the decision of buying what ice cream you need? Now, the felicific calculus states that whatever happiness you get per person, that is definitely going to be lesser than the net value of the happiness for the entire family, because the happiness of the entire family depends more, or it has a more value than your personal happiness. So the math is clear in this case. Sharing creates more happiness. Moving on, we come to John Stuart Mill. He tells that just quantifying is not enough. Quality is also important. So this arises the debate of quantity versus quality. So he states that just not net happiness is not enough. You have to have that quality in that happiness also. Now, how do we bring about this particular concept? Basically, J.S. Mill or John Stuart Mill was a protege of Jeremy Bentham. He asks this very pivotal question: is a lifetime of simple animalistic pleasures really better than a moment of profound human achievement? He states that no. So basically, J.S. Mill goes on to categorize what pleasure you get into two divisions. He states higher pleasures and lower pleasures. Basically, what is this higher pleasures? Poetry, knowledge, philosophy. So people who engage in all this intellectual activity. And he tells that lower pleasures are those of the body. Basically, in eating, drinking, these things are lower pleasures. So can you really categorize and compare these two? He tells no. So basically, by introducing this hierarchy of higher pleasures and lower pleasures, J.S. Mill basically puts a quality aspect to try to divide this pleasures. He states that it is better to be a human being satisfied than a pig dissatisfied. Now that we have an idea as to what these two people talked about, let's try to understand some real life, classical dilemmas, and then we'll move on to some real life applications. Now, when we are discussing this classical dilemma, one thing which arises is called as the trolley problem. Now, what is this trolley problem, sir? You might ask. See, trolley problem is where, imagine that you are this person who is witnessing that one trolley is moving on a railway line. That trolley is moving slowly and slowly and slowly, and then it is gaining speed. You notice that the way in which this trolley is moving, the direction in which it is moving, if it keeps on moving in the same railway track, it would kill instantly 5 people who are on that railway track. And then you notice that there is a lever here. And if you pull this lever, the trolley is going to get deviated and it is going to go in another direction, killing one person who is on another railway track. Now, if you are that person who were to make this decision, what would you do? Would you, would you kill that 5 people, or would you change the direction at the cost of 1? Utilitarianism states that the math is clear. The lever has to be pulled and this one person should be, it's okay if this one person dies because maximum good for the maximum number of people, right? But then again, killing this one person, it kind of feels a little monstrous, don't you think? So, this is where another concept comes in, which is called as act utilitarianism. So what is this act utilitarianism? You basically ask a question. What if everyone did this? A general rule in which everybody starts breaking the law for creating maximum happiness. Now, where would this result? Now, is murder going to be justified under here? Okay. This is where we'll be discussing some examples as well. Now, imagine vaccination. Vaccination is a process in which we might feel a little inconvenience, wherein we have to go to the hospital, get that vaccination. Personally, it's almost like enforcing that we have to take this vaccination. But overall, because of our vaccination, the spread of diseases is going to be curtailed. And because of this, what is going to happen? Now, ultimately, it is going to create better public health. Now, let me give you another example. Imagine that they put speed limits in traffic. Ultimately, it is going to curtail your freedom to move as fast as possible, to drive as fast as possible. But overall, if you take the overall traffic fatalities which are likely to occur, it is going to reduce. So it's a good thing. Now, if we see some very famous, or rather if I had to say some very infamous calculations, let's talk about World War II. In the World War II, they made this decision wherein if the World War II progressed, the plausible outcome of the number of people who were to die because of the land invasion was very high. So they chose bombarding 2 atom bombs on 2 cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, wherein this 2 cities, it's okay if it is destroyed, but overall the war has to come to an end. It turned out to be very dreadful, but this was the calculation of utilitarianism in practice here. Now, if I have to give you another particular example, if a terrorist was caught, is plucking his nails, plucking his teeth, all of this justified? It might be against human rights, but overall, if he were to plant a bomb and that were to go out destroying the lives of so many thousands of people, then in that case, maybe torturing him to the extent that you get out that information of what exactly intelligence is required, maybe sounds on the right side. So this is how utilitarianism works. The maximum good for the maximum number of people might demand that one person is harmed or few people are harmed. That's okay. So is utilitarianism the ultimate moral guide? Bentham basically gives us a calculator, but J.S. Mill gives that calculator a soul. It provides a clear public framework and kind of forces us to think beyond ourselves. But however, its flaws also can be kind of profound. Now, what is this? Here, it justifies injustice. It struggles to measure the immeasurable. It sees the human life as a mere math number. All this being said, it still remains one of the most influential philosophies across time. It doesn't give us all the answers, but it demands that we ask the right questions. In the quest for our greater good, how do we ensure that we do not lose our own humanity?